when you talk about the WGA and sag-aftra strike against the producers. They have a lot of, old inventory that they can run. They have things that are in the pipeline. Their lead time is longer than it would be if you order a package, to be delivered from wherever it is, the pet store, and they're delivering it. A lot of things that have been in the pipeline for years are still just being released. There's also, within the context of the entertainment industry, a lot of mistakes that are made by executives, and this gives them a way of essentially canceling contracts that they realize were mistakes, because that's the nature of that business. But here is a clip. This is a TV writer, WGA strike captain Molly Nussbaum, speaking to The Wrap. I guess this was last week, but it really does a good job of articulating what the problem is with residuals, and also puts, I think, it clarifies a lot of like the sort of the propaganda I've been seeing on Twitter X or whatever it is, that these writers are making enormous amounts of money. They are, but they're making for a very short period of time over the course of a year. And
it's a lump sum.
Exactly. And here is Captain Molly Nussbaum explaining this dynamic about just via her own experience.
I was most recently on Marvel's Daredevil reboot. Before that, I was on The Umbrella Academy, and One of Us is Lying on Peacock. My career started in cable back when that was a thing, and now it's all streamers all the time. So because of that, I've felt how this model has changed and how the financial structure just doesn't make sense. The money that you make on a job has to now last you 6, 10, 12, 14 months. And when you don't have residuals coming to help you get through that, I was an executive producer in April on a hit show for a streaming platform, and I was driving for Lyft in December. That doesn't make any sense. We are creating this much profit, this much revenue for your companies. Why is it all going to the people at the top? Why is it all going to the shareholders who have not been the people creating that wealth for you? We are not asking for money that's not there. We are just asking for a reallocation of funds that reflects the value we bring to these companies.
And we should add, this is the whole question of AI. It's a little bit, sexier for people, but at the end of the day, it's fundamentally the same thing. It is, they want to use AI. First, they were proposing just for background actors, where they could take video of background actors. They will isolate these images, and then they will use them again over and over and over again as backgrounds for all different types of sets down the road. And it also sort of tips off the idea that a lot of that's going to be CGI'd in the future.
Yep.
So there's going to be other jobs that are going to be lost, but it's basically you work as a background actor for a day for $100 or whatever it is. And we're going to take your image and we're going to exploit it over and over and over and over again, and you're going to get no pay. And so it's the exact same dynamic. And of course, they want to do this ultimately with foreground actors and voice actors, and they want to have AI generate writing and all of those things. Anything that AI is going to generate, the inputs come from human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the inputs come from human beings' labor. And they want to basically run that through, take the inputs, pay for it once, maybe never again, put it through the box, and then just keeping those inputs, working those and exploiting those inputs, essentially that human labor over and over again without having to pay for it. And that's really ultimately, at the end of the day, the same broad dynamic as we're seeing with this move into streaming, which is, we get this work. The model was always about you're going to get deferred pay in the event that we keep using this. And now they're basically like, well, we'll keep using it, but we're not giving you deferred pay anymore.
Yeah.
And that's more or less the same dynamic.
Go ahead, Matt.
It's just stolen labor.
It's fascinating to me. Brian Merchant has a column in the Los Angeles Times. Hollywood is on strike because CEOs fell for Silicon Valley's magical thinking. And AI is just the newest exponent of that, to be honest. Like all these promises sold by people like Reed Hastings at Netflix of this giant growth possibilities. This was all just inflated the same way a lot of these tech companies are. And that bubble has massively like affected our entertainment system in a way that I think, like we have to support the actual producers and workers who make these things over the people who are just, trying to commodify it for bankers.
Well,
for
purely selfish reasons too, in the sense that like these people who are buying into these models, they they almost have contempt for the art. Like these are capitalists who are trying to milk this for all it's worth. I mean, excluding the independent studios like A24 that accepted the union's requests as for sure. But like these studio executives, the fact that they feel like they can replace like what humanity provides through artistry, through AI imagery, or through like AI writing, and they're buying into this. It just shows how like completely foreign the actual the nature of artistry is to them.
Yeah, they don't actually make anything themselves.
Yeah, but the bottom line is it's the exact way. I mean, they're treating labor in the exact same way that they treat labor always, which is you're not really a human being. You're really just a widget. And we don't need you when we don't need you, and when we do, that's the only time we're going to pay for you. And you have they presume the same level of humanity for that widget as they would for one of their workers. That's just the way that they contemplate. Yes, and
their experience watching and consuming the art that they're pumping out.
The fascinating thing for me is to watch like the enormous investment that all of these outlets put into streaming channels, which just it was so obviously half-baked. When we did our show on Peacock, there was no way for us, we would take a clip from the show. The other, I was talking about the other show. No, we did the Majority Report, and then we did a second interview show, and to be honest with you, I can't even remember the name of it. Can you remember what the name of it was?
I literally can't. What was it, like Reported?
I think maybe. And we would interview a couple of reporters. Maybe that's what it was. But the point is that we had these interviews. We would take clips, and we were allowed like one clip a day, and we would put it on our YouTube show. And then we could not provide a link back to the actual interview. We couldn't even provide a link that would take you directly to our show. And it was as if like they're not even on the internet. Or I should say, they're on the internet, but they're not on the wide world web.
Right.
They're just being streamed, and they ultimately just end up being just a different delivery mechanism for the exact same product. And the delivery mechanism, the only advantage of it was, to the consumer at the end of the day, just none. Really, as far as I could tell. But and then they're going to, when they have to write off these billions and billions and billions of dollars of losses, they're going to bury it in they want to basically say this is a function of the writers or the actors, and it really is just a function of executives and financiers messing up something that was producing 5x returns instead of 100x returns. And that's where the whole Silicon Valley mentality comes in. If we can't get 100x return, there's no value to it. And we're going to talk about this. Increasingly, our entire economy is like this. And certainly within the context of drug production, we'll talk about that in a moment, based upon, a very nascent effort to change the way, or to really, in many respects, decommodify medicine, at least a part of it. We'll talk about that in a bit. First, a word from our sponsor,